Welcome back, everybody. Today's going to be one of those throwback videos where we're going down the speculation road, and I feel it's time, and we certainly need to. We've talked many times on this channel about the possibility of XRP and the outcome of it being a security or a currency. I certainly firmly, personally believe, and shared many enough times, you all know, I believe XRP to be a virtual currency, but that and 50 cents won't get you a cup of coffee. Today, we're going to discuss the idea and notion, and we've talked about XRP possibly getting an electronic bond or digital bond status, but how about a note? And you know what? Today's speculation isn't based on my thoughts. It's based on Gary Gensler's comments. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
This is Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Subscribe for new content notifications. Now, here's Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. You can follow me on Twitter at @BackupBradleyAbove and everything that we're talking about here today. This is a post, and I wanted to highlight from yesterday from John Deaton. This is a really great article that was written by Jody Godoy, I believe it is, Jody Godoy, right here. And you could follow her. She's writes for Reuters, and this is a really great article that's so fair and in the reporting on what's going on and accurate to what's been happening in a real meaningful perspective as far as Ripple and the SEC case. And you should give her a follow. Let's give her a follow because, look, it really helps to have as much media. I mean, we're grateful for Liz Clayman and Charles Gasparino and Cheryl Casone and everyone there at Fox Business, but we want to get as many people from the media really get an eye on this case because there's so much here to really, really bring to light. Now, today, I'm reminded by two incredible lawyers in this space, Jeremy Hogan and John Deaton. First of all, John Deaton, just amazing to represent now over 30,000 XRP investors in the class action lawsuit. And I tell you, I think before this video is over, whether we're right on the speculative trail here today, I tell you, more grateful than ever for John Deaton and what he's doing, and certainly for Jeremy Hogan as well. And he gives a nice reminder for where we need to start today about not really making assumptions. Listen to this quick little clip here.
So a good lawyer does not assume anything. Now that's something I learned from my dad. Instead, a good lawyer starts with basic assumptions and tears them down. And that's why lawyers' cross-examinations can be so tedious.
And there you have it. And shout out to Jeremy for that. Now, obviously, you need no reminder, but I'm going to give it to you anyway. I'm 12 years short of a law degree. I'm no lawyer, and this is not financial advice. But I want to take a look at this clip that Jeff shared with us from the hearing just 2 days ago, congressional hearing with Gary Gensler. And I want you to hear what he says in the exchange with Warren Davidson. Now, keep in mind, we've had to take a look at the scary idea or notion of XRP being a security. We've had to take a look at the idea of it potentially a bond designation for it. Well, lesser termed items are not bonds. They're called notes. And you even have things, promissory notes, right? So just listen to this little quick exchange right here, what Gary Gensler says. It's not what I'm saying. Listen to what he says.
In some collective group of individuals. That's central test. It's called the Howey test. There's other broad brushes with regard to this as well, as to when something is a note, called the Reves test.
What did he just say? There's other broad strokes or broad brushes, however he says it here. And I'm going to play it again just very quickly. It's very short. In regards to what we're talking about here. Listen. This isn't about the Howey test. This is about the Reves test. Stay with me here.
That's central test. It's called the Howey test. There's other broad brushes with regard to this as well.
Other broad brushes with regards to this as well as what digital assets are securities or not.
As to when something is a note, called the Reves test.
When something is a note, it's called the Reves test by Thurgood Marshall.
Marshall wrote. a few decades ago.
Okay, now let's take a look here because I want to just give the last 6 seconds.
Fundamentally, the SEC is here to help protect the public from fraud, and that's why Congress painted with a broad brush.
Okay, so that broad brush means that certain notes can be securities and certain notes are not securities. We have to ask ourselves, because notes are usually a lesser maturity term than bonds are. And we're going to get into that for a second. And I think, look, I don't know if this is where this goes, but we have to understand when we move through this information, there's a reason Gary Gensler pointed to the Howey test, and there's certainly a reason that he pointed to the Reves test. He's not saying these things for nothing. And you know what else? Regardless of all the information that we have shared thus far, of what we've seen, that the appearance of impropriety with Ethereum and players, potentially workers in the SEC at that time, and that's the appearance, right? We don't know that for sure, but certainly enough to warrant an independent counsel and an investigation on the matter. But with all of that aside, there's a reason that this man is sitting here with the confidence today that he believes the majority of the digital asset market, XRP included, are in fact securities to him. Now, we have really used the Howey test ad nauseum, and it does not fit the bill for making XRP a security. We even heard Michael Didiuk, I believe it is, former SEC member at 2018 Swell, in the first video from this morning, say he didn't believe XRP was a security. He thought it was a currency because XRP was made prior to Ripple, the company, and if Ripple went away tomorrow, was his point, that XRP would go on and continue, which is absolutely true. So the Howey test is a bust, right? But how about the Reves test? All right, well, let's just take a look here. The Colorado Supreme Court has adopted Reves family resemblance test developed by Supreme Court for determining whether a note is a security under the Colorado Securities Act. Now, again, Thurgood Marshall, several decades ago, came up with this. Now, let's move through this information, and I hope I do this justice. So, what is a note? Remember what Jeremy Hogan said, and I think this applies whether you're a lawyer or not, is to make no assumptions about anything. So what is a note itself? This is one of the definitions of many. A note is a debt security obligation repayment of a loan at a predetermined interest rate within a defined time frame. Notes are similar to bonds, but typically have an earlier maturity date than other debt securities such as bonds. Notes can be used as currency. Hello? Is this on? Notes can be used as currency. Promissory note. A note known as a promissory note is a legal debt instrument where one party makes a promise in writing to pay a certain amount of money to another party under certain terms. Got it. How about this? Is a note the same as a bond? Listen to this. A bond is a debt issued to the public who buy the bonds. A note is a debt arrangement between the country and a financial institution. Hello, will Ripple become a central bank and be that financial institution lending money, XRP, to the U.S. Treasury or the Fed and other central banks of the world, which we know they're already working with? Stay with me. How about the Ripple credit line of credit program that came out last year at almost to the day? Send now, pay later with a line of credit. Remember this? Freeing up capital for customers and cross-border transactions can be inefficient. At the same time, creating credit arrangements for each destination market is time-consuming. With a line of credit from Ripple, your financial institution can use XRP to complete instant low-cost cross-border transfers and will allow you to lock in a rate at the time of payment, then repay us when it's convenient for you for a small fee. Okay. Now, again, a note, right? The potential of this being a note under the Reves test. This is just one information. Stay with me here, please. I'm asking you. We all need to put our eyeballs and our mind on this information and see if we can clear the air here. Because this may in fact be where Gary Gensler has so much confidence in how this could be, XRP could be a note, and in certain instances, it could be a non-security. And if you're a retail investor, it could be looked at from the SEC and Gary Gensler as a security. Stay with me. Judges have a list of things that aren't securities. If something looks like something on that list, it might not be a security. Okay. Now, this is why you need security lawyers in these matters. But let's take a look at this information right here. Promissory notes from Reves versus Ernst & Young. This is the Supreme Court decision that came out just like the Howey test came out of. Although the term note is specifically included in the statutory definition of a security, case law has determined that not every note is a security. The Exchange Act and SEC specifically excluded notes with a term excluded notes with a term of less than 9 months. So if a note has a less than 9-month term, the SEC excludes that as a security right out of the gate. The proceeds of which are used for a current transaction from the definition of a security. Moreover, numerous lower courts have carved out exemptions over the years for commercial paper type notes such as purchases, money loans, and privately negotiated bank loans. Again, I remind you of the line of credit that Ripple has taken here. If I understand the principles of the Reves test, then offering lines of credit, and certainly if they happen to be under 9 months, which they don't have to be, but certainly offering these things to their customers, a short-term note secured by a lien on a small business or some of its assets, this is a list of the notes that have judicially been determined to fall outside the definition of a security. Hello, the XRP that Ripple uses in this estimation could potentially fall in a non-security designation. But what about us as retail holders? Here's a quick 3-minute, 44-second video of the same lawyer breaking down the Reves test and the family resemblance. Indulge me here.
Founding partner of Legal and Compliance, a full-service corporate securities and business transactions law firm. Today is the final lawcast in a series discussing what is a security. Although the term note is included in the statutory definition of a security, case law has determined that not every note is a security. Off the top, the Exchange Act and SEC specifically exclude notes with a term of less than 9 months from the definition of a security.
As well as the list of items that we just looked at. I just want to be clear here. The question I'm having is does SEC and Gary Gensler see XRP as a note? And 2, do they differentiate whether the XRP that Ripple holds and uses for its customers as a non-security note and potentially the XRP that retail holders use as a security note? Let's keep listening.
Also, numerous courts have carved out exemptions over the years for commercial paper type notes, such as purchase money loans and privately negotiated bank loans. Analyzing and bringing together the line of lower court opinions, the U.S. Supreme Court in Reves versus Ernst & Young adopted the family resemblance test to determine whether a note is a security. Under the family resemblance test, one must start with the presumption that a note is a security, which presumption is rebutted if the note bears a resemblance to one of the enumerated categories on a judicially developed list of exceptions. The following is a list of notes that have been determined to fall outside the definition of a security. A note delivered in consumer financing. A note secured by a mortgage on a home. A short-term note secured by a lien on a small business or some of its assets.
Hello.
A note evidencing a character loan in a bank to a bank customer. a short-term note secured by an assignment of accounts receivable, a note which simply formalizes an open account debt incurred in the ordinary course of business, such as a trade payable for office supplies, and a note evidencing loans by commercial banks for current operations. The family resemblance analysis requires a consideration of the motivation of the seller and buyer, i.e., is the seller looking for investment and is the buyer looking for a profit?
And what are retail investors looking for that are holding XRP? These are the things that I find concerning. Now, what do they mean? I don't know. But what I do know is we need to have a much broader and deeper conversation about the Reves test, because I'm not the one that says that it matters in regard to digital assets. Gary Gensler is. Let's go here. This is the exchange from on September 24th when Brad Garlinghouse appeared on Fox Business News. And listen to this exchange here.
What you've heard before too, but I need to restate it. Ripple is a little bit different. You've got XRP as the native token or coin or asset, whatever, native asset of the XRP ledger. And you created about 100 billion tokens in advance that were pre-mined, and periodically you release them. At least you own a chunk of that, and periodically you release it. It's almost like you control very much the price, because if you start flooding the market on any given day with more XRP, the price might go down. That feels like an asset versus a currency. And we know that Ether was allowed to do something very similar, but what do you have to really fight through that argument on behalf of the SEC?
Well, there's a whole bunch of things I want to clarify there. I mean, the first and I think maybe most important is that the decentralized open source technology we call the XRP ledger pre-existed the creation of Ripple, the company.
Mm-hmm. That already busts the Howey test right there. There was no initial coin offering right out of the gate.
So Ripple, the company, never did an ICO, referring to initial coin offering. Mm-hmm. And again, one of the things that we were discussing earlier that Charlie called out, Ether did very publicly do an ICO, initial coin offering, which many people would call a securities offering. That is not what Ripple, the company, has done. There's different ways that these technologies work. You know, one is proof of stake, and that's where the Ethereum community is moving. You have proof of work. That's how the Bitcoin blockchain works, through mining, which it consumes a massive amount of energy. The earliest engineers who created XRP were trying to build a better cryptocurrency, a faster, more scalable, more efficient, and less costly, and certainly massively more efficient from an energy point of view. And I think Ripple has certainly just sought to further the agenda of that XRP community. Owning a lot of XRP and saying that's a security is kind of like saying that oil is a security of Exxon, or gold is a security of the largest gold mining companies. It just doesn't really make sense.
Well, let me ask Brad a dumb reporter, non-crypto expert question, which is me. Why don't you just give all the disclosure to the SEC like they wanted?
Listen very carefully.
I mean, could that have solved the puzzle or the problem?
Look, as you know, Ripple is an extremely transparent company, particularly relative to the crypto industry. If you start treating XRP as a security, however, that means you're subject to a whole lot of regulations, costs associated with a security settlement.
Now, very quickly, what we have to wonder is that why, and it may not be, but is that why, one of the reasons why they started a line of credit, not only to help out their customers, but to make sure that they hit that list for the Reves test, so that would set them free from the XRP they use being a security. But what about retail holders and retail investors is the question. Let's keep listening here.
If you're using, again, the magic of what is XRP is how incredibly fast and how incredibly cost efficient it is for these cross-border payments, how Ripple deploys the technology. If you start treating it as a security, the costs and speed change dramatically. Okay. And really, that's an example where the SEC is in effect picking the winners and losers of this new industry. And that's not the role of the government in this case.
Yeah. Are you ever going to settle with them? Because I know people like you, I've covered this a million times. Yeah, we're going to get them. We're going to win. And then all of a sudden, let's say, let's just settle. Mm-hmm. You know, is that going to happen with you guys?
Look, I think that to the extent we can find a constructive path forward with the SEC, we of course want to find that. There's no scenario, though, that we're going to settle unless there's absolute certainty about what is XRP on a go-forward basis. And it's very clear in how Ripple is using these technologies, how many scores of other people in the XRP community are using these technologies. They're not securities. They don't represent an ownership in Ripple, the company.
Okay. Brad?
And I think that's a really great point there. I want to go back to, and if I could just find it here, bear with me here. I just want to go back to this right here where we understand that if I could just find this out here. I know I have it. 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, it's right here. That notes can be used as currency, right? This is very, very interesting, this entire idea of the Reves test. But all of this comes down to, what they've been doing to really make sure that they don't get labeled as a security. And I think that works best not only for Ripple, but for XRP investors as well. I certainly see XRP as a virtual currency, and I have no problem seeing XRP as a note as long as it's a non-security note, because then it can be used as currency. Look, if there's anything that is glaringly obvious to me, it is this right here. And it is John Deaton representing now more than 30,000 XRP investors. If you have not joined this class action lawsuit, I do absolutely recommend that you take a closer look at this, because I am a part of this. And full disclosure, I think many people, if you have not done this, you need to take a closer look at this and consider joining this class action lawsuit, because at the end of the day, we could even see a scenario where Ripple gets set free with the XRP, and retail investors could potentially be needing John Deaton to pull us all along and get us out of a security designation. Who knows? And how would they do that? And what a mess it would be. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. But one can speculate, as we've already done here, that you would be forced to go through a broker dealer in order to cash out or custody your assets. And then there would be tax implications that possibly we would be held to, that potentially Ripple and their customers may not, if those notes are used as currency. How this shakes out, I don't know. But one thing I can tell you is I'm very grateful for John Deaton and what he's doing for all of us to represent us in this class action lawsuit. It is pinned at the top here, and I really do highly recommend, if you haven't signed up, sign up. It's a name, email, address, and a phone number, but none of that information goes out. It remains private, and you can, down in the comments, you can even leave a comment that you would like to remain anonymous. So that's going to do it for me. I am so excited to get your feedback and your comments on this. Remember, all of this was kicked off by Gary Gensler's comments about the regards of the Reves test being relevant in the manner of digital assets and whether they're securities or not. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe, leave a comment below, share with somebody you know, and don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, link to Ripple fully subscribed, link to, and Uphold. It's all out right now, but check back in at 11 a.m. Eastern time, 8 a.m. Pacific time every single day, because it doesn't last long. I'll catch all of you on the next one.